us for another edition of your program, Gender and Parliament. And on this program, remember, we bring to you women in politics, in governance, and of course in Parliament. And we use their stories to inspire young, upcoming politicians to take the bold step that is necessary to join the political race in Nigeria. My name is Omotola Omojola, and today promises to be a very interesting one. I have someone that I'm sure most of you would like to listen to her, and I'm sure that her story is going to touch you in some sort of ways. Today, I have on Gender and Parliament, Honorable Nnena Ukeje. It's a pleasure to have you join us.
It's a pleasure to be.
Thanks for obliging us. So I'd like to start with knowing you. Who is Nnena Ukeje?
Nnena Ukeje is a third-term member of the National Assembly. I represent Bende Federal Constituency in Abia State. I chair the Committee on Foreign Relations. I sit on other committees in the House. Prior to that, I chaired the Committee on International Donor Societies and my core legislative interests of women, children, men and women in uniform, and of course foreign affairs.
12 years in the House of Representatives. Could you kindly share the experience with us?
I mean, how do you compress 12 years into a 30-minute program? And this question, of course, is going to probably be a 5-minute answer. But I'd say that it's been an experience. Obviously, it's been very interesting. I've had to make a lot of choices, sometimes very difficult choices. Coming in initially when I got into the House of Representatives, when I was first elected, I came in as a greenhorn, a freshman. I had absolutely no ideas what it was I was expected to do. I just knew that I'd watched the Parliament on television now and again, and I knew that I wanted to serve my people. And so I ran for the position of the House of Representatives. And as with all people who are freshmen in this business, when you're campaigning for Parliament, you say things like, "Oh, I'm going to build roads, I'm going to give you schools, I'm going to do that and the other," without a clear understanding of what the job of Parliament is. And so yes, I got in there at the beginning. Decided for the first year that I wasn't going to say a word because it's a pretty overwhelming place. I mean, the Green Chambers from television, it doesn't look quite as overwhelming as it is when you're actually on the floor of the House. And I recall that on the floor at the time, sitting behind me was Dino Melaye, which was quite a distraction. And I came in and I watched people like Halim Zagoda, Honorable Halim Zagoda. And he was like the king of the floor, and he just owned the floor. And I'd watch him bouncing down the stairs with his stack of newspapers, and he just appeared so knowledgeable, And of course, there was also Honorable Farouk Lawan, who, of course, now for whatever reasons, but Honorable Farouk as well was quite the man on the floor of the House, and you could just see him coming down with his almost oversized Bavariga, and he would come in and look at us almost, like children. I'd be like, "Are you okay?" And I decided for the first year that I wasn't going to say a word. I mean, I didn't even have anything to say because it was just so overwhelming. How did these people get so knowledgeable? I mean, and they were showing off from what I saw. I mean, they knew the rules from back to back. They quoted the Constitution copiously, and then after the first year, I said, okay, I'm going to be like them when I grow up. And I listened and I took a lot in. It was a lot, like I said. At the time, I was the deputy chair for interparliamentary relations. And so I got to travel quite a bit and meet other parliamentarians from around the world and understand how other parliaments work. And I think that traveling and engaging with other people helps me grow because I had a comparative in my head as to what parliaments were, or different parliaments acted like, and what our parliament acted like. And so, yeah, it was pretty interesting.
To me, I have an idea of who you are. Some other people have an idea of who you are, but I'd just like you to say it succinctly. How would you describe yourself politically?
I think that, as I say, I think I've grown. I've grown on the political space. I believe that women must be given the opportunity, but I also believe that we shouldn't be given the opportunity just because we're women. I think that women need to throw up the best women. And I know that we have the opportunities to be the best at what we do, because women work twice as hard to be thought of as half as good. I just came back from the American University of Nigeria's convocation or graduation ceremony. And most of the best prizes were taken by the girls. And it has always been the same in most co-educational institutions. The girls do much better than the boys when it comes to education. The girls, and these days you find that women are starting to rise in every sphere. And I keep saying that, you know, for us to have the gender parity that we so desire, that we must create an opportunity where we give the men, because, you know, whether we like it or not, they're the ones who have filled up the spaces, where we give the men an offer, when we make them an offer they can't refuse.
And what would that be?
Give them a woman who's at par intellectually, with the same amount of experience, who has the same amount of strength as the men, and believe me, we will now begin to have a conversation about gender parity. I believe that we as women must not continue to play the emotional card, because there's so many women who are very competent. The judiciary has been taken over by women. The judiciary, you see the best female judges, you see all of them up to the Supreme Court. There's so many women there. The president of the Court of Appeal, Justice Bukachua, is a woman. My mother, Chief Judge, Federal High Court for 8 years, Justice Rose Ukeje, is a woman. And there's so many people who are there. The former Chief Judge of the Federation was a woman. So you see that, and these women, it wasn't about gender. It was about achievement. It was about intellect. It was because they were suited for the job. And I'm saying that when we want to have these gender conversations, we should start from the beginning. If you go to the private sector, I mean, the president of the First Bank is a woman, and I've listened to her speak so many times, and you know, she's so inspirational. And it's not because there are not other men on the board, but it's because she probably was the best on the board. And I'm saying that when you make the men an offer they can't refuse, they back down. But you know, we can't continue to come up with the gender conversation and ask that they do us a favor. No, we must come with our best, and then we can demand that we have the parity that we deserve.
But you would agree with me that there are times that even in some constituencies, they probably present their best woman, and probably the woman is a lot better than the men that she's put up against, and many times, just because she's a woman, she's not going anywhere.
I hear those stories, but I've run an election 3 times and I'm a woman. And I'm saying that women must start to, you know, we if you want something, the society is skewed against women, no doubt. You know, we have to work twice as hard to be thought of as half as good. And you heard my colleague on Ukeje, oh, if you give the women any more chances, they'll run us out of Nigeria. But you know what I keep saying to women is that I believe that the glass ceiling is very, very fragile. I believe that that glass ceiling can be shattered, but I also believe that we need to put our best foot forward. We can't run away from the patrilineal stance of Nigeria. We can't run away from the fact that there's still so many men that are misogynist in nature. But you know, the truth of the matter is that women cannot run elections as if they're men. I come from a very patrilineal society. I come from Benin. Men are very proud, you know. But, you know, the women are the voters. At the end of the day, the women are the voters. And I just think that, and I've said several times what women should do. We need to connect. You know, sometimes it is very hard work. And I believe that this gender thing is good. We're going to chip at it. We're going to continue to chip at it. But I believe that skills and education are the tools that we require to finally shatter the glass ceiling. I think that we must start from the place where we start to educate the girl child a bit more, where we start to put the girl child through and put in their heads that leadership, that leaders, some are born, but some are made. And that to prepare yourself for a future that is going to be skewed against you, you must be armed with the necessary tools to at least give yourself a foot in the door. Now, the way that it's going, nobody is going to give you a chance just because of the way your set of your chromosomes are set. Nobody's going to say, oh, she's a woman, therefore let's give her a chance. We've been trying to pass the gender affirmative action bill on this floor for the past 10 years, and that hasn't happened. We've been trying to open up the doors and speak to the men to even give us the quotas that, like, things that happen in countries like Uganda and so on and so forth, in Rwanda. That hasn't happened. And so I think what we must do, as I said, is get the girl child, educate the girl child, instill in her the leadership traits that are required to get halfway through and make the men the offer that they can't refuse.
Okay, ma'am. 12 years in the parliament.
Yes.
12 years as a woman. You did say something about connecting. I just like to have a personal experience of yours. What were those things you did in 12 years that kept your people voting for you over and over?
I think, I think that a lot of the men have, they view leadership as servitude. For a lot of women, it's easy for us to, it was Bill Clinton that said that when you're running in an election, you must feel the pulse of the people, you must touch the people, you must feel their pain. And I think that in Bende, where I come from, it was almost as if I had a personal relationship with everybody. I felt their hands, I knew their kids by name. I had an open door policy. My kitchen was everybody's kitchen. I lived in a bungalow. There was just no, the Oga mentality. And when you take that Oga mentality away from the people, especially when you're a representative, especially when you're a member of parliament, the people relate to you. You find that a lot of people, you go to most politicians' houses, a lot of big men's houses, and then there's a chair somewhere under a tree, far removed from where the person is. And you come to the person's house and, you're under the sun, under that tree for a couple of hours, and then Oga finally comes down the stairs, and he has a 1-minute conversation. It wasn't like that with me in Bende. In Bende, I sat down with them, whatever we ate, I had that going cooking, and so, we were all together. And, I think that was the greatest thing. It was, for them, it was novel, for them, it was new, for them, it was bringing government and governance very close to the people, for the people to actually feel you and understand that you did not see yourself as different from them, and you shouldn't see yourself as different from them because you represent them, and for you to represent them, you must understand them in a way that nobody else does. And I think that was the premise upon which, when I spoke to connectivity or connecting with my people, I feel that I had an almost personal relationship with my people. And let me also say here again that I think I learned from the best. I learned from Tambuwal because, I continue to go back to Tambuwal because I love his leadership style. His leadership style was one that made you feel that he was you and you were him, and there was no difference. And learning from that and seeing the way that the people reacted to them. And I've also seen it in my relationship with the people of Bende. I have people in Bende, for instance, they hardly call me honorable. They call me either Ne, Auntie, or Adabende. So it's not, it's just a relationship between me and the people who feel that, she represents us, but she's one of us.
So much to learn from you. We'll have to take a break now. When we come back, there'll be more with Honorable Nnena Ukeje. Thanks for being there. This is still Gender in Parliament, and my name is Omotola Mojola, and I've been sitting with Honorable Nnena Ukeje. 8 years as Chairman, House Committee on Foreign Affairs. How would you describe Nigeria's foreign policy?
Well, Nigeria is not as strong as she used to be, and I think a few things are responsible for that. I think that the people who hitherto were friends have now become our competitors. I think that our dwindling wealth is also another issue. I think that the growth of other economies around us is yet another issue. The strength and the growth of Francophone countries, especially in our space, is another concern we have. Nigeria's vulnerability with regards to her security situation is another concern that we've had, and the way in which we have handled insecurity in our country is another issue that we have. Of course, again, the issues with regards to petrol states and how fragile the petrol states have become because of the fluctuations in the oil prices and so on and so forth. And of course, people see what is happening in Venezuela and so on and so forth. It's another issue that has affected Nigeria's position in the Committee of Nations. I believe that of course, we've gone from citizens diplomacy to foreign direct investment, and Nigeria's foreign policy directions have been that. Also, a lot of people have also said that with the challenges that we've had at home, that your foreign policy only mirrors your domestic policy. So when there's confusion or when there's not such great news coming out with regards to our domestic policy, then you find that our foreign policy is also questioned. Of course, because of lack of funding as well, a lot of lack of funding and misuse and abuse of the funds that have been sent as well to our missions, you find that some of our missions have also not been able to be the mirror of the country the way that we want it to be. But in Nigeria, in Africa, is Nigeria still very strong? Yes. Does Nigeria continue to try to forge relationships with other countries, South Africa, Egypt, and so on and so forth? Absolutely. Are we still the big brother making interventions with regards to Gambia, with regards to Cote d'Ivoire, and so on and so forth? Absolutely. Nigeria is still doing that. Do we still hold the leadership position in those places? And do we try to create stability in the sub-region, region, and in the country, in the continent, on the continent as well? Nigeria still does that. She does that very effectively. But could it be better? Absolutely. It could be better. I think that a more defined foreign policy objective in a way that puts us where we need to be, in a way that makes us more insular, protects our country, in a way that ties in our foreign policy to our defense policy, to our migration policy, to our economic policy. I think Nigeria has to stand up and take a strong position as far as ECOWAS is concerned, because of funding and what we do within the ECOWAS and strengthening ourselves between the Anglophone, Francophone dichotomy. I think that those positions have to be taken, and they have to be taken very strenuously. I think Nigeria has to strengthen herself as far as the AU is concerned, throw up the best hand so that when we go to international elections, we win and put ourselves in strategic positions. I think Nigeria also has to take the lead when it comes to democratization of the United Nations. We have to. We're big enough to do that, but we must be organized enough to drive that.
What's ahead?
I want to go back to school. I want to go back to school. I want to learn. I want to learn. I just want to go back to school and just continue to learn and learn and learn and put myself in a position and whatever opportunities and whatever lies ahead. I always say that God is amazing. He's an amazing artist. Our lives are a blank canvas, and He just paints on it as well. And the colors are always so beautiful. And I believe that the next stroke that He puts on that canvas is the one that I'm going to follow through. But in the interim, I'm going to go to school.
You're someone of great influence, whether you like it or not, to a lot of young girls out there. I just want to find out: do you have like a kind of a way that you or your colleagues, you come together and you mentor young girls? Because you said a lot about the fact that we should present our best and everything, but I believe that we also learn from the best. Do you have such platforms?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of young girls that I mentor. I mean, I have, and for me, it's the most flattering thing, and I think that's one of the most gratifying things about this job. That I meet a lot of young girls and they say to me, I want to be like you. Nobody knows just how beautiful those words sound and just how it is. And so I get all these girls and I talk to them, and now they think they do. And even I recall that at the last Miss Nigeria pageant, I went there and I spent the whole day with them, and I was talking with them, and the conversation went from you're beautiful for a reason. The world is kind to a beautiful face. So just use your beauty, do something for your environment. Use your beauty and be more and do something tangible. Go back to school, be strong. Your looks, intellect, and strength of character. That combination is very lethal, and it's going to be very useful for us for breaking down this glass ceiling. And so yes, I do have a lot of girls that I do, and I'm always very eager to work with young girls, especially young disadvantaged girls. I talk to them, and even the ones that are not disadvantaged who come to me, I do. Yes, it's not structured, but now that I have the time out of Parliament between going to school, I'm sure I'll be able to have something structured wherein I talk to them and just let them know that inside of them, that the world is not going to hand them a toffee just because they're girls, that they need to be the best at what they do for the world to open up and give them the opportunities that they must take. The world is their oyster, I say to all of them. But you have to be prepared when the world comes knocking, that you're prepared to walk into those doors.
Okay. The glass ceiling, you keep talking about it. When exactly do you envision it being shattered? And it looks like the numbers for the ladies is dwindling again. When do you envision us breaking it?
When we're ready.
When we're ready. Okay, and you don't think you actually said something about the society is skewed against women and everything, but political parties, for example, what do you think they should be doing to ensure that?
In the last elections of the PDP, it was very amazing because I think it's going to take time. Is it going to happen fast enough? Probably not. But I think that the door's opening. And in the last elections, in the PDP last elections, we saw for the first time, we saw women running for secretary, we saw women running for everything. Hitherto, women were confined to women leader and treasurer. But we actually saw the doors opening, and we saw very strong contenders. We saw people like Senator Nnena. We saw strong women in the political space who had their mettle, who had proved their worth on the political space, and who were running in these elections. Did they win? No. But we had someone running for legal advisor. She was a woman as well, or she is a woman as well. And we've seen women run for strong positions, and I think that in the next go around, a lot more women are going to show a lot more interest in those positions that hitherto were in the domain of the men. Will politics always be the old boys club? It is the old boys club, but we're going to continue to break it in, because I believe that for as long as we start to bring women, Senator Nnena, I'm hoping that she runs again. I'm hoping that we're able to garner the groundswell that she requires, and I'm sure that as we move into the next round of elections, we're going to see a lot more women breaking those barriers for places that hitherto were male dominated. I believe that once we start to open up those spaces and we start to break into that, then the argument that it's the old boys club and therefore they don't let the women in. Senator Lujimi was the first female opposition leader. Senator Lujimi is 10 men. She's strong, she's decisive, she's intelligent. And when Senator Olujimi, for instance, was made leader, there was not a whimper from anybody, because Senator Olujimi, and thank goodness I remember that, because she's an amazing example. There was not a whimper from anybody, because Senator Olujimi is an astute senator, has a clarity of mind, understands the job, is bold, and nobody could say she wasn't good enough for the job. I did hear a whimper, I don't know if you heard, but nobody could have said anything, because Senator Lujimi is a consummate legislator. And so, which is what I keep saying, that that glass ceiling is going to be shattered when there's a conference of women like that. We had Senator Joy Emodi, another very strong woman who was on the floor of the Senate. Nobody ever, and when she was the presidential liaison person, you saw the amount of work she did. She walked amongst everybody. It was across the aisle. She was decisive, she was in control, and that must have symbolized the best relationship between the executive arm of government and the legislative arm of government. And I'm saying to you that when women like that, who are strong, who are knowledgeable in their field, take over, that glass ceiling is going to be shattered, I believe.
Okay. I'm hopeful too. However, you mentioned the number of women, powerful women who are, to use your word, who have proved their mettle. I want to now ask you, what would be your word to those young girls, young women who are aspiring, especially those who probably in the last elections they ran for certain offices and they were denied. There was they lost election, they were denied. What would be your word for them? And they're like you said, it's an old boys' school.
4 years it's a long time, but it's a very short time. This is the time for you to go back. There's a Yoruba saying that, I don't know if I'm going to get it right, that when the ram goes back, it's not because he's scared, it's because he's going back to get more strength. And I think that 4 years is enough. Go back. improve yourself, be strong, start early. Realize if this is what you want to do, start early. Start to navigate, relate to the people, connect with the people, start to realize. And one thing about the boys that I love is that when they see that they can't stop you, they become your cheerleaders. So start early. Start early, start to connect, start to better yourself, start to think about the things that went wrong the last time, start to connect with more. And the beautiful thing about our political space now is that there's so many fringe parties that have launched. So it doesn't have to be the PDPs or the APCs or the CPCs. No, it doesn't have to be. So if that is the problem, if those big political parties are proving to be too difficult, go to some of the smaller parties. But because at the end of the day, you're going to have to send yourself to the people. Let me tell you a very quick story before we go. There's a girl in my constituency who was into NGOs, very strong girl, didn't have a penny in her pocket. But she had the love of the people. And she would go on Okadas from village to village. She was running in the State House of Assembly. She would go, her name is Miss Anyasi, and she would go from place to place. And before you knew what was happening, she had the groundswell in a way that, was unbelievable. And she came up to me and she said, "Auntie, I don't have any money, but look at what I've been able to achieve." And so she's done it, and she was so inspirational to me, because I looked at her and she had realized what she did. She had realized what it was that were her problems. She didn't have money, she didn't have a car, but she had something. She had the drive. She had that fire in her belly to go out and succeed. And she came third in the elections, and this was behind people who had a lot more money, who had a lot more clout, who had a lot more this. And what I'm saying is, 4 years, it's going to come around again in 4 years. Don't whinge for 2 years. Wake up at the end of 2 years and start to do it. No, start from today. It doesn't have to be as if the elections are tomorrow, but start to build the momentum. I believe that as we build the momentum towards that, all the women who want to run, please use this 4 years, improve yourselves, build the momentum, so that when we launch, it's going to be like the blue wave. I mean, look at what happened in the United States. I mean, all the girls literally took over the Congress. Nobody would have thought it. What happened was that they were angry enough by all the Me Too campaigns. They were angry enough about the misogynism. They were angry enough, and they all started early. It was a conference, they came together, and it wasn't an election for them, it was a movement. And I think that if we want to make an impact, for us, 2023 should not be an election, it should be a movement. Let us start early, let us start to galvanize the base, let us start to acquire the knowledge, let us start to be as visible as possible, and then hopefully we can replicate what is happening in the United States. After all, our legislature is styled after that.
Okay, but before I let you go, what is the price of leadership for you?
For me, it was very personal. I said to you earlier, I was a single parent. And my son, I think, bore the greatest prize for my leadership. And my conversations with my son would always be, "Ma, are you in town on Friday?" And I'd be like, "Why?" He said, "Because I have a basketball game, but it's okay if you're not there." And I could see the hurt in his eyes. And we did that. And for 12 years, those were the conversations we had. I'm in a school play. Are you around on Tuesday? And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in a school play." And then I'd be like, "Oh, I have to be." And I'm like, "Okay, I understand." And it broke my heart every time I had those conversations. But I think I've raised a young man who understands that the value of hard work. And for me, while it broke my heart a lot, it had its rewards, and the rewards are that I believe that God has given me a young man who hopefully will grow to understand that to get the good things out of life, you must make most painful sacrifices. That was the greatest prize. But something, through it all, I'm grateful for the experience. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing 12 years.
And it's been amazing talking to you, as always. We've been speaking with Honorable Nnena Ukeje. My name is Omotala Omojola, and I promise to bring you another wonderful guest on another edition of Gender and Parliament. Have a nice day.